Hello Cloud Pedagogians, welcome back to AWS Cloud Developers course. In the last session, we have migrated our local student directory application code into the CodeCommit repository. Next thing, we need to understand how to operate repository in CodeCommit. So in this lab, we are going to take a look at repository actions like creating, viewing, listing and deleting repositories. We will do this both from the management console and the CLI. Again, we will just create repositories and view them in a list and delete both from the command line and from the management console. So before going to this lab, make sure you fulfill these prerequisites. You should have already configured CodeCommit credentials in your local or develop environment. If not, please go through the previous labs in this course. According to our student directory application lab diagram, we have 3 developer teams. In this lab, I'm going to SSH in as a REST developer and then do the code commit actions. If you are ready, let's jump into our task. In task 1, we will create a repository. In task 2, we will view the files inside the repository. Finally, in task 3, we will be deleting the repositories that are created in this lab. So let's start with the task 1, create a repository. So let's just work with the management console first. Right now, I am in the CodeCommit console page. Our migrated student directory application repository is already exist in the CodeCommit. Since we need this repo, I don't want to disturb it. What we can do is we will create a couple of repositories and have them sitting around for testing purposes. So let's go ahead and do it. Click on create a repository here and then enter a repository name cp console repo. One key point, we can't have spaces here. We can add an optional description or tags here. Let's just go ahead and create. Good, repository is created and so it already has a clone URL. Now let's go and check in our CLI. Let's go check out how we can do this from the CLI. It allows you to manage your resources through a terminal window with a couple of lines of code. Here we have just used a single command AWS CodeCommit create repository with a repository name cp-cli repo. So how simple is that in CLI, isn't it? Good work. You have created a repository from management console as well as in CLI. In the next task, we are going to view these repositories. Right now, altogether, we have 3 repos in the list. One is our student directory application repository, which we are actually working on it for our student directory application. The other 2 test repos were created from the management console and the CLI for testing purpose. So let's verify them in the console first. Let's go back to the repositories. Now, if we want to view a repository, we simply click the radio button. We can start adding files to our repository. We can create or upload. So we can create files right in CodeCommit. We can actually start typing in code if we want to. Of course, we'll do that in the upcoming lessons. Now check in the CLI. We'll enter AWS CodeCommit list repositories. There we go. Alright, and of course we have a bunch. We have our list of repositories, but we'll kind of verify them in management console. And of course, this all looks like a match, except that it appears the management console is sorted by lost to modified, whereas from the CLI, it looks to be sorted by alphabetically. But anyway, we have a full list of repositories and now we can get to work. Great job. Now you know how to view list of repositories from management console as well as in CLI. Finally, we work on how to delete these repository. If you want to delete a repo, we just go ahead and click the radio button for it and delete. There is a confirmation you can see. Keep it nice and safe. So just so you are certain you want to do this and delete. It's pretty straightforward in the management console. Now let's say we want to delete a repository in CLI, but I don't want to delete the student app repo since that's our demo repo for this course. I'll just delete the one which we have just created for the testing purpose since I'm not using that for anything. Alright, enter AWS CodeCommit delete repository and I provide the repository name. Let's run this. That's a good sign. No error message and got back a repo ID. Now let's just refresh over here in the management console. We could also list repositories, but there we go. The all testing repositories are gone. It's pretty simple command line in CLI, isn't it? Congratulations! In this lab, we have created a repository, view, list and delete repositories as well from both management and CLI. For beginner, it's really straightforward in the management console to create, edit and delete repositories. Most of the developers work with CLI to simplify their tasks. Remember, anything you can do from the CLI, there is a potential to script. I'm going to end this for this today's lab. Thank you for joining me and see you again in my next session. Until then, have fun with learning.